Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight to say that there is divided opinion in this country about how to treat entrepreneurs is putting it mildly. In the one corner you have screams of tax the rich, demands for wealth tax and exit tax and more. In the other you have stark warnings to Rachel Reeves. Well, today Reform UK launched their business strategy. Let's take a look and get this in absolute clown world style. Another migrant that was sent back to France under the one in, one out scheme, you guessed it, they've come straight back in again. How pathetic is this? And the BBC, we know they're quite good at dramas. Well, there's another one now involving themselves. Get this, Donald Trump is now threatening to sue them to the tune of $1 billion. That's billion with a B. Your thoughts on that? All of that and lots more that we must discuss together tonight, ladies and gents. Keeping me company, my panel, the head of policy for Reform UK, Zia Youssef. Alongside him, he returns, Labour MP Barry Gardiner. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening to you. 6:05 here in the GB newsroom. Donald Trump's threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion after its chair admitted an error in the editing of a speech by the US president. Mr. Trump's legal team's accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and have demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday evening to respond. Earlier, in a letter to the Culture, Media and Sport Committee, the chairman, Samir Shah, apologised for what he called an error of judgment in the edit, which put two parts of Mr. Trump's speech together, so he appeared to explicitly encourage the Capitol Hill riots of January 2021. It has prompted the resignation of the BBC's head of news, Deborah Turnus, and its Director General, Tim Davie. Well, Mr. Shah insists there's no institutional bias at the BBC, and Ms. Turnus reiterated that point to journalists earlier.
BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Why did you fail to deal with the mistakes that were made?
And see my teams. Thank you so much.
Right, we're going in now. Do you think that the journalists are corrupt like President Trump says? Do you think the journalists are corrupt?
Our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality, and I will stand by their journalism.
Is there institutional bias at the BBC?
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
At least 8 people have been killed in an explosion in the Indian capital, New Delhi. The blast occurred in a car near the Red Fort landmark, a popular tourist destination in the city. Another 20 have been injured. Police say they do not yet know the exact cause of the blast. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been released from prison 3 weeks into a 5-year jail sentence. A Paris court made the call earlier this morning. The 70-year-old will now be placed under judicial supervision and banned from leaving the country. An appeal trial will take place in March. Sarkozy, who led the country for 5 years to 2012, was jailed last month after being convicted of conspiring to raise campaign funds from Libya. He has denied any wrongdoing. Another illegal migrant removed under the France returns deal has crossed back into the UK. GB News has discovered the migrant arrived back into UK waters on a small boat yesterday, one of almost 400 asylum seekers to be picked up and taken to Dover Harbour. A Home Office spokesman has said anyone looking to return to the UK after being removed is wasting their time and money, adding that the individual was detected by biometrics and immediately detained. And the International Olympic Committee is moving closer to announcing a blanket ban on transgender women in female competitions. It's expected to happen early next year. Last week, the IOC's medical and scientific director updated the committee after a review of evidence about permanent physical advantages of being born male. Well, the International Olympic Committee says no firm decisions have yet been taken. There's your headlines. I'll have more for you at 7. Now it's back to Michelle.
Thank you very much for that. And hello and good evening to each and every single one of you. How are you doing tonight? Another week begins. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. And I'm with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, the Head of Policy for Reform UK, Zia Youssef. And alongside him, I've got the Labour MP, Barry Gardner. Good evening, gents. You're both very welcome tonight.
Thank you.
Of course, as are each and every single one of you. What, ladies and gents, is on your mind tonight? Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Lots, ladies and gents, that we need to get stuck into tonight. Have you seen the latest BBC drama? No, I'm not talking about some kind of box set. I'm talking about the actual BBC drama. Donald Trump now threatening to sue the BBC for £1 billion. I'll come on to all of that and a lot more. Also, are you employed with a small business? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you self-employed? Lots of interesting stuff being discussed about you tonight. But look, before I get into all of that, I did just want to pause just for a quick second, just to look at some good news happening in this world. It's very rare, isn't it? Well, of course, we're all familiar with that horrendous train slashing attack. Well, look what happened this weekend. Take a look. This is the hero's Stephen Crean. Watch. Oh, if you were listening on the radio to that, I absolutely loved it. I just needed to share it with you. That's Stephen Crean, of course, the man that ran to that knife attacker. He was welcomed, given a hero's welcome, I have to say, to Nottingham Forest ground there, wiping tears from his eyes as he walked away. So many supporters taking to their feet to celebrate that man. Also, of course, you will remember the train worker who was in the buffet car as well. He was in hospital in critical condition. Zamir Zutani, well, he now has woken up as well and seems to be recovering. So, of course, we continue to send all of our best wishes to everybody involved. But it warmed my cockles, those scenes at the weekend. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, look, are you self-employed? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a sole trader? What do you think the environment is like for you at the moment? Do you think that you are celebrated, encouraged, or do you think you are hindered? Political divide right now when it comes to the approach we should take. One group of people suggesting wealth taxes and exit taxes, you name it. The other group of people saying we should champion and celebrate these people who are Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. He was declaring his party the voice of small business at a conference today. I was going to show clips and all the rest of it, but look, you're sitting here, so I'll just cross live to you, Zia. Tell us more.
Well, look, firstly, small and medium-sized enterprises in this country, they employ 2/3 of everyone employed in the private sector in this country. And for too long, there has been a war on ambition. There's been a war on people who graft. Look, I built a successful company in this country, and I know firsthand the sacrifice it takes, the sleepless nights, and the enormous pressure that comes with doing such a thing. And frankly, we've had it started with the creation of these mad IR35 rules that are now insanely onerous. That began under Gordon Brown. The Tories only added fuel to the fires they have done on so many of these issues, and now obviously Labour are continuing them. There's far too much regulation, and one of the biggest problems, Michelle, as Nigel's pointed out, is that we've got a Labour cabinet where there's pretty much nobody in that cabinet who knows what it's like to start a business, who knows what it's like to have the responsibility of making your monthly payroll on your shoulders during, for example, an economic shock or an economic crisis. And that's why you have these insane, self-defeating policies. I mean, by the way, we haven't even started talking about the exit tax that's now being briefed. I mean, these are catastrophic. So the only way we're going to be able to grow the pie, because in the end, prosperity is not created just by redistributing existing wealth. It is only created through human ingenuity and human productivity. And the engine of that, the engine of growth, has always been small businesses. And that's why Reform said we are the party that will represent them. And
let me just be clear when we're talking about the impacts of some of this stuff. So I think this is 2024, the end of 2024, 5.5 million SMEs, small to medium enterprises. 99% of all businesses are SMEs. There's about 6 16.5 million people employed by SMEs. That's about 60% of private sector employment. And these SMEs represent almost 50% of total business turnover. So this will affect the lives of many of you watching this programme tonight. Barry Gardner, have you got a war on ambition?
Well, no. Look, I've run a small business. I ran my own company in the city for 12 years. I know what I wanted from government. It was to be clear about your policy, to be consistent, and then to get out of my way and let me get on with it. Now, let's look at what Labour is actually doing for small businesses at the moment. On the high streets, we're putting $5 billion for this Pride in Place to turn our high streets into the sort of place that people want. We're giving the community the right to buy much-loved local assets like local pubs that are closing down, or even football clubs or boarded-up shops in the high street, to bring renewal back into our towns. And when it comes to small businesses, any business that has a business rate of under £500,000 will get a cut in its business rates come next April. So we're very much focused on small business. As I say, I have experience of running a small business myself. I know what I want from government. Be clear, be consistent, then let me get on with it. Because Zia's right, it's about entrepreneurship. It's about being able to get out there and see what the market needs, getting your place in there and actually getting the money in that then pays all our taxes to provide the public services that we need.
So here's what the Labour government has done. They've launched, they've got this employment rights bill, or as we call it, the unemployment rights bill. It's no surprise that unemployment is now at 4%. We speak to so many small business owners who say this sort of legislation is not only making them to think twice about hiring more people, it's making them stop altogether. Then there's also the increase in national insurance contributions for employers of 2%. So what Rachel Reeves has done is make it more expensive to hire people and more risky to hire people. And now she seems to be taken aback that payrolls are down meaningfully relative to when she became Chancellor. And there are really serious consequences to this. We speak to so many small business owners who, as I said, their businesses now are on the verge of bankruptcy as a result of this crushing legislation. So that sounds great. And maybe, you know, if you had people like you, Barry, who actually had experience of running business in Cabinet, some of these appalling decisions would not be made.
Thank you, Zia. But let me take you on about the Employment Rights Bill, because there was an independent economic analysis done of the impacts of the Employment Rights Bill, and it said that it was significantly positive. There are those issues that the increased NIC, absolutely agree with you there, but they said on the Employment Rights Bill that the direct benefits to workers are the equivalent to any of the costs of it, and actually that is money that's going into people's pockets, workers' pockets, which they then recycle into the economy, and that helps economic growth.
Barry, so you don't need an independent analysis to know. Anyone who runs a small business who's watching this now knows if you materially increase the litigation risk in hiring somebody and you don't have tens of thousands of pounds to hire fancy lawyers, you are going to think twice about hiring people or not hire people.
So why are
it is crippling to small businesses.
Why are 500,000 more people now in employment under this Labour government than were when we took office?
Payrolls are down, Barry.
500,000 more people in work.
Payrolls are down, right? And you can go look at that data yourself. The reason why payrolls are down and unemployment has gone up is precisely because Rachel Reeves, as I said, has increased the cost of hiring people.
In employment.
Payrolls are down. The number of people who are actually on HMRC payrolls is down, Barry. These are that's just a fact.
But as you well know, that's why you're talking about payrolls. The public understand.
Well, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about hiring.
The public understand that people who are in work are not just on payrolls, not just being paid for by public services, by local councils and so on. People actually in work. The entrepreneurs that we're talking about. People in work.
Barry, the number of people on payrolls is down and down meaningfully, and we speak to countless people who run small businesses and are in management teams in small businesses who are suffering as a result of this. And we haven't even started talking about the changes to inheritance tax, by the way, which are also so egregious. It's not enough that the government must tax people at every stage of the entrepreneurial journey. And if you are fortunate enough, if you're fortunate enough to be in the lucky few in the end, because you do need some luck to get there. Obviously, it's a lot of hard work and perspiration and good judgment too, but you need some luck. If you're amongst those few, then no, there's no chance that you can just give all of that to your children. The government's going to come and take a massive slice of that. In fact, so much, Barry, that again, we're talking to so many people who are now preemptively looking to sell up their businesses, struggling to find buyers. I think you really underestimate how much lasting, almost immeasurable damage these appalling anti-business policies from Labour are causing.
I mean, the unemployment rate in this country has actually increased, hasn't it?
The employment rate has... you're right,
I
yes.
To be clear with everyone.
Yeah.
The amount of people unemployed...
Who are registered as unemployed,
right.
but unemployment is not the same as the number of people in employment, and it's not the same
Barry,
as the people on payroll. You see, when you're talking... Let me just finish,
and the number of people,
it's not hard for that
I know very
you don't
broad
like
definition of worker to go up when you are importing untold numbers of migrants into this.
You tell me that the migrants don't work, so you can't now say that the only reason that we've got more workers is because they're coming in. Come on, you know, let's have a bit of consistency.
Right, don't worry, we'll come on to migrants in a minute. Exit tax. Are you looking at introducing an exit tax?
I'm not looking at introducing anything. Not to my knowledge. We'll see what happens when Rachel stands up there and gives the budget later on this month.
What do you think to it all? One of my viewers has just got in touch telling me that it's John. He says, I'm an accountant, Michelle, with 40 years practice under my belt, acting on behalf of various small businesses, he says. Operating on a self-employed basis is now too difficult. He says, my advice is go and get a job as a civil servant and look forward to your rich pension at the end of it. There you go. Keep your thoughts on that one coming in. Worry not, you need to get your popcorn ready in just a few minutes because we will be taking a look at that latest BBC drama. Donald Trump threatening to sue the BBC for £1 billion. We'll come on to that and much more in a few minutes.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, alongside me, Zia Youssef and Barry Gardner. Should Donald Trump sue the BBC? You need your popcorn at the ready for that one, because that is looking like it may just happen to the tune of £1 billion, $1 billion actually. What would you say to that one? Coming back to self-employment, Andy says, how about entrepreneurs, businesses and corporations pay a fair wage to their employees rather than letting them have their low wages subsidised by the taxpayer through universal credit. Sue, though, says, I've been self-employed, Michelle, since 1987. Following the budget, I fear I will have to lay off up to 12 staff because they earn more than I do. But, she says, I have to carry the stress. Mariella says, Michelle, since 2009, I've worked long hours as a sole trader, but now I've decided to retire in May because I simply cannot make a living anymore. Costs have risen so much, it's no longer viable. And Archie says, Michelle, rejuvenation of high streets back to how they were is a fool's errand. The way people shop, he says, has changed severely. There will be no going back to how we once used to shop. What do you do with all the high streets then? Give me your thoughts on that one. Look, before I move on and get to the gripping drama of Donald Trump versus the BBC, I must also touch on the gripping ridiculousness of this government's so-called one-in, one-out scheme, because we spoke before about the fact that some fella, he was deported. You know what he did? He came straight back again. We was told that actually this is great because it shows that the scheme works, that the biometrics are being collected and so on. You couldn't make this up, ladies and gents, because now it's happened a second time. Barry Gardner, what on earth are you playing at, you guys?
Well, look, reforms policy...
I'm not asking you reform.
No. Yeah.
I'll come to reform in a minute.
OK, fine, good. But reforms policy is actually to send them back. And I said just a few... Yeah, but you're talking about sending people back.
No, I'm asking you, what are you lot playing at with a one-in, one-out?
Let me tell you what we're playing at then. We've got 42 people returned.
Right.
You said that it wouldn't be more than a couple of people right at the beginning. You said you didn't think it'd be one. We've had 42 people returned. Now, if you remember...
Barry, you want a round of applause for 42? There's over 1 million illegal migrants in this country,
You always interrupt when you think I'm making a good point. I know, you don't like it up.
I know with certainty, Barry.
You don't like it up.
One thing I know with certainty is you are not about to make a good point, that's for sure.
Me up both of you. Pack it in. Come on, one at a time.
Thank you. We've returned 42 people so far, right? If you remember the Rwanda scheme, that's 10 times more than the Rwanda scheme. The Rwanda scheme cost £700 million to return... Oh, it did. It returned 4 people who went voluntarily, right? So it did. Now, we've done it without it costing £700 million, and it's a pilot scheme.
How much has it cost?
I don't know
disclosed it.
I don't know the exact figures yet.
How much it's cost. But the government has not disclosed what it's cost, and it will be per migrant. It's going to be an insane amount of money. Barry, there's over 1 million. There's over 1 million illegal migrants in this country. There's over 1 million illegal migrants in this country.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the
how
ones
many
who
have
are here.
arrived since Starmer came to power? We're not boasting about deporting 41 people.
I'm talking about the pilot scheme, right? You're asking whether the scheme is working. You said it wouldn't. You said that there would be no more than one person that was ever...
So you're pleased with 41 people?
I accept that the scheme is a pilot scheme. It's growing, and if it succeeds as I think it will make a difference. It's not on its own a silver bullet, but it will make a difference. And with the changes that we're making in the cooperation we're now beginning to get
they're literally
from the
coming
French
back.
Government.
When they said it was one in, one out, I didn't realise it literally meant the same one going in and out
You've made the same joke
again.
week after week.
It's ridiculous.
Here, so,
I made the same joke because it keeps happening, Barry, and that's what's so tragic about this.
Yeah.
That is what's so tragic about this. The British state under Labour has become indistinguishable from a Monty Monty Python
it's
sketch.
your policy.
You've got illegal migrants. You've got sex offenders, migrant sex offenders being released accidentally from prison. People were the subject of protests for weeks and weeks. The British people are sick and tired of it. And comparing it to the Rwanda program, no one's going to sit here and tell you the Rwanda program was anything other than a catastrophic failure. I'm going to agree with you on that. Here's the reality. There are north of 1 million illegal immigrants in this country. Tens of thousands have come in since Keir Starmer came to power. And the idea that 41 is something to be celebrated is only going to enrage people. Labour needs to leave the ECHR. They need to derogate from every international treaty that will prevent deportations. And then they must launch a mass deportation program to detain and deport everybody who is here in this country illegally. And at the moment, not only are they not doing that, when Shabana Mahmood came out and said that she wants to emulate Denmark, you had backbench Labour MPs up in arms about such a thing.
Is it only those who are here illegally? I thought your leader said that he was going to deport people who were here legally.
We're going to abolish indefinite leave to remain, yes. And by the way, Barry,
he said that he would deport, what was it, 900,000 people who were here legally with indefinite leave to remain.
No. So first of all, he didn't say that, but I will say this.
He did.
But I will say this. Just because somebody... The reason why so many people are fixated on illegal immigration is because it's the most insane thing about an already absolutely bananas open borders policy this country has run for a couple of decades. But we make no apologies for saying just because you came to the United Kingdom legally does not mean you get to stay forever. No serious country operates that way. So yes, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain because there's the Boris wave that's about to hit the fiscal, have a massive fiscal impact and cost the taxpayer hundreds of billions of pounds. So we make no apologies.
Right, let me just ask you this as well. So this 41 that was sent back, I've got to be clear as well, that obviously that means that we then will have taken 41 in, so we're net neutral. But anyway, where is this second guy then? So we've sent him back. Then he's come back to the UK. Where is he now?
Well, he'll be being deported again because we've been able to identify him, right? We've been able to identify him because of the biometric data, so he'll be going back again.
But what's the delay? Why hasn't he? As soon as he touches down, you touch down, you're all in your queue, you get your biometric status, right, you've been sent back. Why is there this delay? Why aren't you immediately sent back straight away?
I'm sure that they're expediting it as we speak. I've no idea why there would be any delay.
Well, I tell you often...
But the point is that the press wouldn't even know existed unless it was reported that he was going to be deported again.
Barry, I'm not being rude, but I really don't think it's a success that the Labour Party might think it is, saying that, hey, do you know what, we've spotted him, he's gone back. I will never be able to get my head around why these people are still allowed to continue crossing the channel. I see footage of these, I don't know what you want to call them, they would call themselves patriots, other people might call them activists, whatever you want to call them. Men go to the beach now over in France, they watch these not-so-small boats take off. Nobody's doing anything to stop them. But yet all of my viewers are being charged a small fortune to pay the French to stop them even taking off in the first place. They're not doing it.
Well, can I just say, on top of that, people should know that Labour is now considering a trial of actually giving migrants £100 per week each, literally just paying them to leave hotels and just be dispersed into communities. So Rachel Reeves is raising taxes, by the way. This is what's going to be so galling to people watching this programme. Rachel Reeves is about to break her manifesto pledge to raise income taxes on people to pay for this madness.
Right, are they doing that? Because I think the Home Office said they're not doing that. Are they doing this £100 thing or what?
I have no knowledge that they've done that. It's all speculation that Zia's putting forward. All that he's talking about in the budget, all that he's talking about is speculation.
Well, we shall see. I know some of you guys at home, you get in touch with me often. Many of you will probably not be too far away from contemplating going on one of these not-so-small boats yourself and getting into hotels over the winter, getting everything paid for when it comes to food, heating and all the rest of it. I hear you, don't worry about that. Coming up after the break, have you got your popcorn ready? The latest BBC drama featuring Donald Trump. BBC potentially might be getting sued by him for £1 billion. See you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello there. We've got some heavy rain moving back into parts of Spain and Portugal the next few days. Some showers towards Turkey as well. But in between some sunny spells, risk of some rain moving into Madeira come Tuesday, and that rain finally approaching western parts of Portugal later on in the day. But elsewhere across the Mediterranean, generally dry with some sunny spells, though showers moving from Greece into Turkey through the day. Some of these could be heavy at times, and the outlook is for it to be largely dry with sunny spells, temperatures near average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, more wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland, and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine starts, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to a halt on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M8 westbound at Junction 3 is restricted due to an incident. The M4 westbound has congestion from Junction 24 Coldra to Junction 26 Malpas. In Derbyshire, severe delays affect the A38 southbound between the A50 and A5132. The A49 southbound in Herefordshire is closed after a collision, reopening by 9 tonight. One lane is closed on the M1 northbound in Bedfordshire between junctions 12 and 13 due to an accident. And on the trains, major disruption is affecting both Grand Central and Hull trains between Grantham and Retford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. I've got alongside me till 7 Head of Policy for Reform UK's Youssef and Labour MP Barry Gardiner. Peter on the Your says it's a joy and a pleasure to spend his early evening with us. I've got to tell you, it's also a joy likewise to have your company as well. We very much appreciate it. Did you have your popcorn at the ready? Because the latest drama, all the twists and turns, you won't want to miss this one, ladies and gents. Donald Trump has now threatened to sue the BBC for £1 billion. You know the story by now. There was a leaked dossier that basically accused the BBC of systemic bias. One of the core tenets of this was the doctoring of Panorama when it came to Donald Trump, basically suggesting that he was encouraging violence on January the 6th. If you've been following this story anyway, you'll know over the weekend you had not one but two resignations of very senior figures there. Should Donald Trump sue the BBC, do you think, Barry Gardiner?
Well, look, I hope he doesn't. The BBC made a mistake. They should not have cut the speech and put those two bits together, and missed out the bit where he also said that he would march with them to peacefully protest. But let's be clear, after the violence, he did, I think, call those people patriots. He did say that he didn't believe that the election result was correct, that the election had been stolen, and I think I'm right in saying that he may have pardoned some of the people who were convicted of that violence.
Start assessing the character of Donald Trump.
No, it's not about his character.
You said that this was a mistake. Now, to me, a mistake is I leave my bread in the toaster a bit too long and it burns. That, to me, is oopsie, a mistake. To me, taking speeches, taking one bit over here, one bit over there, almost an hour in between, knitting it together to make it look like something that it absolutely was not, is not a mistake. I wonder why you regard it as one.
Let me be clear. Impartiality is important, and when the BBC fails on impartiality, as it did on this occasion, it's right that it should apologise and make sure it gets things right in the future, OK? Impartial information is a public good. It's something I think is worth paying for. And it's about not having to pursue a particular agenda. It's about being as accurate as possible. But the independence to do that is difficult if you're funded from one or two specific sources. Now, if you look at GB News, it's funded by Sir Paul Marshall, who's a hedge fund manager, and the Legatum Institute, which is a think tank, I think, set up by the billionaire Christopher Chandler. Now, they're both on the right of the political spectrum, and it's entirely proper that in a free society they have the right to set up a news channel that propagates their views. That's absolutely fine. But the BBC has to be held to a higher standard of impartiality. You have balance.
Hold on a second.
That's why I'm here.
You say about propagating views. I've never once been told what to say, what to think, what to communicate to my audience by anyone, whether that's a backer of this channel or a management and also,
I would never accuse you of that, Michelle.
It would be very, very nice, actually, to be funded by advertisements. But guess what happens in this society? Almost the moment an advertiser comes on board, a huge activist machine kicks into power and starts bombarding organisations, trying to bully them, actually, to coming off GB News. And unfortunately, many of those advertisers actually succumb to that, which I think is absolutely tragic. And yet another example of how these ridiculous ideologies have taken a hold within our society.
You see, Michelle, the reason you don't need anybody to tell you what to say, and I'm absolutely, God knows if they tried, I'm sure you'd have their guts for garters. But you see, that's because they know what your political views are. Your political views are on the right, that's fine. And you know, if you think how you introduced this at the beginning, the bit about immigration, you said, how pathetic is this? Now, the BBC wouldn't be allowed to say that. That's independent commentary. You have to be balanced. I'm here because I'm the Ofcom chair, in effect. I provide you with the balance, which means that you can speak to people and give them what they want to hear.
And I'll respond to that point, actually. Sorry, Izzy, because I know you're desperate to come in, but I also want to be clear. Most people watching this programme, I can hear you shouting at your sofas, at your TVs, you think it is absolutely pathetic. You will probably be using much harsher words than me to describe the absolute ridiculousness of people coming in and out like some kind of demented yo-yo. And what I would say is what's gone on within the media landscape in this country is those normal opinions have been completely minimalised, ridiculed, you name it. And actually, that was one of the reasons that there was indeed a gap in the market for GB News to actually not shy away from having the kind of conversations that you guys decide to have at home. Maybe if they'd have done their jobs slightly better, not ridiculed you, not try and suggest that you guys are somehow racist, far-right lunatics for wanting to do things like have Brexit or control your borders, then maybe none of us would be sitting where we are right now today. Anyway, see you, Youssef.
No, I think that's beautifully put, Michelle. I think that's beautifully put. And the rise of GB News, which I think on many segments now beats other news networks, including the BBC, actually, in some slots, is my understanding, that would not have been possible. It was made possible because so many people in this country feel disenfranchised by the BBC, feel like not only are their views not represented on screen, but actually their views are sneered at on screen. And people who, for example, express perfectly legitimate concerns about immigration are smeared and insulted as being racist. Bringing it back to this Trump situation, what I've seen, I come at this as someone who grew up loving shows like The Office, and the BBC has a place in my heart, and I know also, as someone who built a company, look, it's very easy to tear things down and destroy them. It's much harder to build them, right? Build them up. But I will say this, the BBC has behaved appallingly now for years and years. It has acted with a sense of impunity, which hopefully now this might have some chance of changing. The speech in question, what really worries me, Michelle, that the reason why I'm not that bullish that this will be a turning point for the BBC, is that senior figures at the BBC keep using the word mistake to describe this. Now, I get it. Anyone in any job can make a mistake, and there's a massive difference between an honest mistake, right, and a deliberate attempt at weapons-grade propaganda. And in this scenario, taking a man's speech and taking the two things that were said 52 minutes apart, 52. Anyone could take clips of us speaking where we've said things 52 minutes apart and make them sound like, and here's what they did. They made it sound like he was saying the opposite of what he actually did. And instead of, and my understanding, by the way, is Tim Davie actually knew about this dossier and didn't say anything. If they really cared about the reputation of the BBC, and maybe he'd have stood a chance, by the way, of keeping his job and retaining some trust in the BBC if he'd gone out, said this was a huge problem and apologised. And instead, you had senior figures at the BBC, including big news presenters, actually, kept using the word mistake. And any reasonable person assessing this on its merits knows this is not a mistake, it's insidious. And sadly, Michelle, all these issues only ever seem to go in one direction. I'm afraid the BBC newsroom has a serious problem. I think it is rotten. I hope it is repairable, but there's no evidence to suggest that it is.
I've got to tell you as well, I don't actually think it's just the BBC that suffers with this problem. I think that there is this mindset that has crept into so many public bodies, whether it's NHS, whether it's the BBC, whether it's universities, whether it's schools, whether it's colleges, whether it's workplace. Actually, I could just spend all night listing off institutions that I think have been infected. And it's become this mindset where left-wing equals good, right-wing equals nasty. And I got into a taxi the other day and I was talking to the taxi driver. The taxi driver was talking to me about immigration or whatever. And he said to me, don't get me wrong, I'm not right-wing or anything. I don't want you to think I'm right-wing. I said, can I just stop you there? Yeah. What's wrong with being right-wing? How come we've reached this point in society where if you're left-wing, as I'm saying, somehow you're good, high-five you, you're great, you're going to heaven. And if you're to the right of centre of politics, which to me, by the way, means control your borders, strong law and order, small state, lower taxes, promote agency, personal responsibility, that's what being right-wing to me means. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Michelle, look, there's a lot in what both of you have said that I would agree with. And I want to pick up on two things that Zia said, which I do agree with, and that is sneering. I think you're right, Zia. For far too long, politicians and not just politicians, but media, journalists have sneered at people who have certain concerns, OK? You don't sneer at people. You try and listen carefully to what those concerns are, and then if you disagree with their solution, you have to put forward another one. And that's the way I believe politics should be handled. The other thing is, you rightly said that the BBC had a place in your heart. I think it's a place in all our hearts. I mean, strictly, traitors, BBC Sport, the World Service, one of the most amazing. Goodness me, absolutely. How could I have left that out? Yes. But all of these amazing things that the BBC does is precisely why we value it. but it has to be held to a higher standard of impartiality than any other channel, because it is a public good. Impartiality is a public good. Balance is one thing, impartiality is another.
My viewers are shouting, why should I have to pay for the BBC?
Because
if I don't want to watch it, whatever, why should I have to pay for it?
Because it is a public good to have somewhere that you can go to that you know is impartial.
But it's
but Barry, but that's the fundamental
that's the
point
problem,
now.
and that's why. And you're right, Zia. It's not just a mistake; it was wrong.
But you called it a mistake.
I did, and that was my mistake. Okay, it was wrong to do that. Okay. But the point is this, we hold them to that standard. If you made a similar mistake in splicing together some speech of Starmer's, I've been on Patrick's show where he's taken quotes out of context, and we have a laugh about it, and then we talk about it. But the BBC can't do that, and that's why it's a public good, and that's why we all pay for it.
Patrick Chris has never made out, clipped you, spliced things you said to make out that you called for an insurrection.
And just to be clear, if I behaved in that way, my bosses would have my backside kicked out of this job quicker than I don't know what. Thank you very much. Anyway, look, so much more that we need to discuss after the break. Should you be allowed to criticise Islam? See you in a minute. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you until 7.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I say, now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, with you till 7. Zia Youssef and Barry Gardner are alongside me. Lots of you getting in touch, I've got to tell you as well, pointing out this notion about sneering at people with a different viewpoint to your own. Lots of you pointing out things like our Prime Minister actually took literal seconds to get in front of a podium and call people far right when they were angry about unfoldings going on in this country. The one in, one out stuff, there's not a lot of support and love, actually, for your policy. I've got to tell you, Barry, people are pointing out that point, that you've got 40-odd out, but 40-odd in, Jeremy says. The scheme should be all out, none in. That's what you guys would like to see as a migration policy. I've got to tell you, don't hold your breath, though. I don't see that one happening anytime soon, do you? Anyway, look, should you be able to criticise Islam? Now, there was a verdict which Toby Young, who is the leader of the Free Speech Union, he said that this was a very important verdict. A judge has ruled that you can actually criticise Islam, and the ability to do so is protected under British law. This all stems from this guy. He was called Patrick Lee. He was found guilty of misconduct, basically, by a trade body over things that he'd written critical of Islam on Twitter. He then basically won his tribunal, meaning that actually this is a seismic victory, if you would like, for free speech. It's the same one that allows us to have our gender-critical belief protected in law as well. I'm a big fan of that one. Anyway, do you support this? Should people be able to criticise Islam, Zia Youssef?
Of course, of course. And one of the most powerful outputs of this verdict is that it will make Labour's attempts to introduce a blasphemy law by the back door much, much more difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, because this Labour government seems to find new ways of doing awful things all of the time. Look, the reality is, Michelle, if we want to live in a society where people get on, then having one group of people who are legally immune to criticism is only a recipe for disaster. Any student of history actually knows that. It doesn't do anybody any good. And I think, frankly, being able to criticise any religion is a core part of freedom of speech, which is a fundamental aspect of English common law and a really important British value.
Barry Gardner?
Don't disagree with much of that. I disagree with what he said about the Labour policy on Islamophobia, because, of course, actually the reason that actually we've moved away from the definition of Islamophobia was precisely because we didn't want to create a blasphemy law by the back door. That was precisely what we said.
Is that a genuine question? Is that now out of the question? Labour's not working on an Islamophobia law anymore?
It's not working on a definition of Islamophobia. That's absolutely right. And the reason that was given for that was because we didn't want to create a backdoor to having blasphemy.
Why were you indulging that in the first place?
Well, look, let's focus on this and the right to freedom of speech.
Why was you guys focusing on that in the first place?
Because there is increased hatred and increased violence against mosques and Muslim communities. We've seen that. Just as there
violence is already illegal, Barry. Why do you need a new law?
If you let me finish, and one of the things that we do have in this country is a definition of anti-Semitism, which has helped us to try and eradicate the violence and the discrimination against the Jewish community in this country. So we looked at whether creating a definition of Islamophobia would be as helpful as having a definition of anti-Semitism. We concluded that a definition was not the right way to go. Okay, so just for clarity.
Hang on, because many people watching this, I know, sorry Barry, but I know what my viewers will be saying, because they get in touch with me every day. I know some of their sentiments. So many of them will be getting in touch with me now, if I look at the inbox, saying to me they suspect that one of the reasons that the Labour Party was doing some of this stuff regarding Islamophobia and all the rest of it is because you're so frightened about losing the Muslim vote. What do you say to that?
No, look, I mean, no politician wants votes to go away from their party. But look, I've always said that I don't want any group of people, whether it's by race or religion or class, to be wedded to voting for any particular party, because that's what then breeds sectarianism. I want people of all faiths, of all religions, of all ethnic backgrounds to be able to vote right across the spectrum, because that's how you have a free-thinking society. But to the point about the case that you've mentioned with Mr. Patrick Lee, I think it's absolutely right that we should be able to criticise all religions. We've fought for that in this country. We've fought for the right to freedom of speech. The issue is you should never, ever encourage violence against, people of the Islamic faith or any other faith for that matter. So it's absolutely right that the tribunal ruled in his favour, because it does not constitute an offence to say something offensive, and that it's really important that people understand that you have a right in this country to do something which may actually be the wrong thing morally to do. That's why you need a right to do it. So we have the right to offend other people. That's freedom of speech, and long may we protect it. In fact, I don't know if you know, Matthew Paris, the commentator, has just reissued his book on offences, on offensive language in politics and the sort of takedowns that people have used. And there's some things that, as he points out, you couldn't get away with saying nowadays, that people like Churchill and some of our great leaders of the past, some of our great literary heroes, Dr. Johnson, was incredibly rude about people, but in a very funny way.
Last 20 seconds to you, Yousaf.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's fundamentally important that people are free to criticise any religion. That's a really important discussion that needs to be had in this country right now. And, of course, Barry, look, no one's disagreeing that, attacking religious sites, places of worship, this is already illegal. Yeah. So no one's disagreeing with that.
And I'm sure, anyway, I think it's absolutely appalling to be setting fire to different places, especially religious places. But I'm sure I saw the other day that one of the people that was arrested for one of the mosque arsons, I think he was some kind of fellow Muslim. Feel free to correct me if indeed I am wrong. Anyway, look, that's all we've got time for, ladies and gents. Thanks to my panel. Thanks to you at home. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, more wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland, and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine start, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland, because again here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to halts on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation, because the truth matters.